I never believed in souls, not in the religious sense, not in the supernatural sense. To me, a soul was just an abstract idea, a concept, something people use to comfort themselves in times of grief or fear. But that all changed the day I bought one. It started as a joke, a drunken conversation between friends about the weirdest things you could find on the dark web. We had heard the usual stories about hitmen for hire, human experiments, cursed objects, but then someone mentioned it. You can buy a soul, they said. We all laughed at the idea, but later that night, when I was alone, curiosity got the best of me. I opened my laptop, turned off all the lights, and went deeper into the dark web than I ever had before. It didn't take long to find it, a simple website, black background, red text, no images, no explanations, just a title at the top: "On a soul forever, no returns." I hesitated, it was obviously a scam, but I clicked through anyway. There was a list of names, each with a price. Some were expensive, thousands of dollars, others were cheap, barely more than a cup of coffee. One name stood out to me. Elliot Graves, price $15. It felt absurd, the idea of buying someone's soul, like it was a used DVD. But my curiosity overpowered my logic. I added it to my cart, if you could even call it that, and paid in Bitcoin. Moments later, I received an email. "Thank you for your purchase. Elliot Graves is now yours." Attached to the email was a single file, a text document named Elliot. I opened it expecting nonsense, maybe some creepy ritual instructions, maybe just an empty file, but all it contained was a short message. "He belongs to you now." That was it, no instructions, no details, just those 5 words. I laughed, closed my laptop, and went to bed. I woke up to my phone buzzing. It was a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, do you believe in souls now?" I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. No one knew about my purchase, not even my friends. I hadn't told anyone. I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 little dots appeared, they were typing. "Elliot Graves." I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. The rational part of my brain told me it was a prank. Someone must have hacked my email, seen the file, but deep down something in me knew that wasn't the case. I turned off my phone, tried to shake the feeling that I had made a mistake, but things only got worse. That night, I woke up to the sound of my own voice whispering. I sat up in bed, my skin crawling, listening. It was coming from the corner of the room. A soft murmur, like someone repeating the same phrase over and over. I reached for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it towards the sound. Nothing was there, but the whispering didn't stop. It was inside my head. "He belongs to you now." I barely slept the rest of the night. When morning came, I checked my phone, another message. "I hope you slept well." I didn't respond. I went about my day, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head, but the messages kept coming. "Why won't you talk to me? I'm yours, aren't I? You paid for me." I deleted them all, blocked the number, but new ones kept appearing from different senders. Sometimes I'd open my phone to find drafts of messages I had never typed, waiting to be sent. "Please let me out." I stopped sleeping, I stopped eating, I stopped answering my friends. The next time I checked my email, there was a new message from the same sender. As before, no subject, no attachments, just a single line of text. "I'll make you believe." I heard the first knock that night, slow, deliberate, coming from inside my closet. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the door, listening to the rhythmic tapping, each knock louder than the last. I didn't open it, I didn't move, I just sat there until the sun came up and the knocking finally stopped. But when I finally worked up the courage to check, the closet was empty, except for a piece of paper sitting on the floor. My name written in perfect cursive over and over until the ink ran dry. I packed a bag that morning. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to get away. I left my apartment, checked into a cheap motel, threw my phone in the trash. But that night I woke up to a familiar sound. Knocking. Not at the door this time. From inside the motel bathroom. My heart pounded as I reached for the light, but before I could flip the switch I saw it. A shadow in the mirror. Not mine. Someone standing behind me. I turned around fast, my hands shaking, but there was no one there. Just the mirror reflecting an empty room. And then I saw the message scrawled into the condensation on the glass. "You can't run from me." I stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp, my breath coming in gasps. I was losing my mind. I had to be. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe I had imagined it, maybe it was just a nightmare. Then my phone buzzed. A new number. A new message. "Check your pocket." My hands trembled as I reached down, my fingers brushing against something cold, something smooth. I pulled it out, held it up to the light. A hospital wristband. The name printed on it was mine, but the birth date wasn't, and the patient name scratched faintly beneath it was something else. Elliot Graves. I dropped it like it burned my skin, my vision swimming, my pulse racing. The text buzzed again. "I told you I'd make you believe." I clutched my head, the whispering was back, louder, now more insistent. "He belongs to you now." I tried to leave the motel, but the moment I stepped outside I felt it. A presence. Watching. Waiting. I turned slowly, scanning the parking lot, the road, the empty gas station, across the street. Then I saw him, standing beneath the streetlight, motionless in the cold night air. His face was blurred, like my eyes couldn't focus on him, like my brain refused to process what I was seeing. But I knew who it was. Elliot Graves. And he was smiling. To be continued. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. Every instinct screamed at me to get away, but something held me there, rooted to the spot, like I was trapped in wet cement. Elliot Graves didn't move. He just stood there under the flickering streetlight, watching me, his blurred face shifting like a bad signal, like something that wasn't meant to exist in this world. The whispering in my head grew louder. It wasn't a single voice anymore. It was a chorus, overlapping words, echoing inside my skull, repeating over and over. He belongs to you now. I forced myself to look away, to break whatever invisible grip was holding me. I turned and bolted back inside the motel, slamming the door behind me, locking it, deadbolting it, pushing the dresser against it like that would stop him, like anything could. My phone vibrated again. Why are you running? I wanted to scream, wanted to throw the phone against the wall, wanted to make it stop, but deep down I knew it wouldn't stop, not unless I did something. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking as I typed back. What do you want from me? 3 dots appeared. A pause. Then the answer came. You bought me. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. I wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans, trying to steady my breathing. That was a mistake, I typed. I didn't think it was real. The response was instant. That doesn't change anything. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. There had to be a way out of this. There had to be a way to undo what I had done. I pulled up the original email from the website, reading through the message over and over, looking for anything that hinted at a way to return what I had taken. Nothing. Just 5 words. He belongs to you now. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I hesitated, then typed. How do I give you back? This time the dots stayed for a long time, longer than before. Then the reply came. You don't. A chill ran down my spine. I glanced at the motel window, my breath fogging up the glass as I leaned closer, peering through the thin curtain. The streetlight outside flickered once, twice, and then went out. I didn't want to look, I didn't want to see, but I couldn't stop myself. My eyes locked onto the darkness beyond the glass, searching for him, searching for the shape that had been standing there just minutes ago. Nothing. He was gone, but I didn't feel relieved, because somehow I knew. He was closer now, much closer. Should I keep going? A heavy silence filled the room, like the air itself was pressing down on me. I backed away from the window, every nerve in my body on edge, waiting, bracing for something I couldn't predict. My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up the dim motel room, but I couldn't bring myself to check it, not yet, not with that feeling crawling up my spine. Then the whispering started again. Not in my head this time. It was coming from the bathroom. I turned slowly, my breath shallow. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness between me and whatever was inside. I stepped forward, against every instinct screaming at me to run, but my body moved anyway, like I wasn't in control, like something was pulling me closer. The whispering grew louder, words overlapping, murmurs, shifting into something that almost sounded like my name. I reached out, my fingers grazing the door. It swung open before I could touch it. Darkness stared back at me. The bathroom light was off, the mirror barely reflecting the faint motel glow from behind me. And then I saw it. A shape in the glass. Not my reflection. Something standing behind me. I spun around, my chest tight, my vision swimming. Nothing. The room was empty. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against the nightstand. I turned back to the mirror, my heart hammering against my ribs. The words were written across the glass, this time scrawled in something I didn't want to recognize. Let me in. I stumbled backward, knocking into the bed, gasping for breath. The whispering stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I grabbed my bag, my keys, my jacket. I needed to leave. I needed to get out of here now before. The motel door creaked. Slowly. Opening. I froze, staring as the gap widened, revealing nothing but the dark hallway beyond. My phone vibrated in my hand. A new message. You left the door unlocked. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My mind was screaming at me to react, to do something, anything. But I just stood there watching. And then a shadow stepped inside. I didn't see a face, didn't see features, just the outline of something tall, something wrong, something that should not be here. My legs finally obeyed me. I lunged for the window, yanking it open, my fingers slipping on the frame as I threw myself through it, landing hard on the pavement outside, my knees scraping against the rough ground. I didn't stop. I ran without looking back, the cold night air burning in my lungs. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I never believed in fate. I never thought the future could be written down long before it happened. But last night, I found something that changed everything, a letter buried deep in the dark web, a letter that described my life in perfect detail and ended with something I am not ready to face. It started with boredom. I was scrolling through forums looking for obscure internet mysteries when I found a post titled Lost Time Capsule Archive. It had no upvotes, no replies, just a single link. Curiosity got the best of me, and I clicked. The page that loaded was ancient-looking, simple white text on a black background. At the top it said "The past remembers." Below was a search bar and a message: enter a name and discover their forgotten words. I assumed it was a database of old letters or diary entries, some kind of archive of lost messages. I hesitated, then on a whim, I typed my own name. A single result appeared, a file titled "To be opened in the year 2025. The date sent was exactly 100 years ago. My stomach tightened. It had to be a coincidence, a common name, or some random text generator. But when I clicked to open the file, the letter inside was addressed directly to me. My full name written in perfect handwriting. I swallowed hard and read. To the one who finds this letter, your steps have already been taken, your choices already made. You believe you have found me. But I have been waiting for you. I know who you are. I know what you fear. I know what is coming. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. The writing was old-fashioned, the ink slightly faded, but the details it mentioned were disturbingly accurate. My hometown, my childhood, the scar on my left hand from a fall when I was 8. It was impossible. I had never spoken about that accident online. No one could have written this, not unless they knew me personally. I kept reading. You are searching for answers, but some things are better left hidden. You will try to run, but you will not escape. Soon you will see the sign. When you do, you must decide, do you want to know the truth? My hands trembled as I scrolled down. The letter was dated exactly 100 years before tonight, the timestamp matching to the minute. I checked the site's code, trying to find a clue, some indication that this was a hoax. But there was nothing, no metadata, no source, nothing but the words on the screen. And then my lights flickered. My heart pounded. I turned away from the screen, forcing a nervous laugh. Power surges happen. It was nothing more than a coincidence. But then my phone vibrated. I picked it up, and my breath caught in my throat. A new text from an unknown number. Do you want to know the truth? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. This wasn't possible. I hadn't told anyone about the letter. I hadn't posted about it anywhere, but someone or something knew. The air in my apartment felt heavier, a pressure building in my chest. I turned back to my laptop. The letter was still there, but at the bottom new words had appeared. Look outside. My pulse pounded in my ears. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop myself. I walked to the window, hesitating before pulling back the curtain. A man stood across the street, perfectly still, his face hidden in the shadows. He wasn't moving, wasn't even shifting his weight, just standing there staring at my building. I let the curtain fall back into place, stepping away from the window. My phone vibrated again, another message. You are not alone. A wave of cold dread washed over me. I ran back to my laptop, trying to close the site, but the screen flickered, the text distorting for a second before reforming. It's too late now. The lights in my apartment flickered again, this time staying off for several seconds before humming back to life. I grabbed my keys and phone and rushed out of my apartment. I needed to get out, needed to be around people. As I stepped onto the street, my eyes darted to where the man had been standing. He was gone. I forced myself to take deep breaths. I was overreacting. I told myself this was just an elaborate trick, some kind of prank. But I knew better. Deep down, I knew better. I walked to the nearest coffee shop, sitting in the brightest corner with my back to the wall, my hands still shaking. I unlocked my phone. Another message was waiting. You shouldn't have looked. I turned my phone off, shoved it into my pocket, and ran my fingers through my hair, trying to steady myself. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing for sure. Someone had written that letter 100 years ago, and they had known I would find it. They had known everything about me, and now they were watching. And worst of all, I still didn't know how the letter ended. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, that this was just some elaborate hoax, but as I sat in that coffee shop, heart pounding, I realized something chilling. The letter was still open on my laptop back home. I had left in such a hurry I hadn't shut it down, and I had no idea what else it might say. I debated going back, but my gut told me that was a bad idea. Instead, I pulled out my phone against my better judgment and turned it back on. The screen flickered before settling into normalcy. No new messages, nothing waiting for me. Maybe I had imagined that last one. Maybe it was just panic setting in. I had to know. I opened a private browser and went back to the site, but when I tried to reload the letter, the page was blank. No text, no timestamp, just an empty white screen. I refreshed, nothing. I typed my name again, nothing. It was like it had never existed. I sat back, gripping the edges of the table, my mind racing. If this was a prank, it was an incredibly sophisticated one, but something deep in my bones told me it wasn't that simple. My thoughts were interrupted when I felt a shift in the air. Someone had just entered the coffee shop. The bell on the door jingled softly. I kept my eyes down, not wanting to meet anyone's gaze, but then I heard it. A chair scraping across the floor directly across from me. Slowly I looked up. A man sat there, a man I had never seen before, wearing an old-fashioned suit. Something about it seemed just slightly off, the fabric too stiff, the cut just a little wrong, as if he had stepped out of a different time. His face was emotionless, his hands resting on the table between us. He stared at me unblinking, and then he slid something across the table, a folded piece of paper. My throat went dry. I didn't want to take it, but I also couldn't refuse. My fingers trembled as I reached out, hesitating, before finally unfolding the note. 3 words. You were warned. I looked up, but the man was already gone, the chair still rocking slightly from where he had been sitting. I stood quickly, glancing around, but no one else in the coffee shop seemed to have noticed him. I grabbed my things and rushed outside, scanning the streets, but there was no sign of him. I was breathing too fast, my mind unable to process what had just happened. The letter had disappeared from the website, but now here it was right in front of me, a physical piece of evidence. I unfolded it again, this time noticing something I hadn't before. More writing. At the bottom in smaller script was another line. Your final warning is in your apartment. My stomach dropped. I knew I shouldn't go back, but I had no choice. By the time I reached my building, the sun had set, and the air had turned cold. The hallway felt longer than usual, my apartment door somehow heavier as I pushed it open. I stepped inside, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. The kind of silence that feels too deliberate, as if the space itself is holding its breath. Then I saw it. Another letter resting neatly on my kitchen counter. But this one was already open. My pulse thundered in my ears as I approached, hesitating before picking it up. The paper felt old, fragile, like it had been sitting there for decades waiting for me. The handwriting was the same as before, but the words were different. This time there was no warning. There was only a date. Tomorrow. My hands clenched around the paper, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. But I knew one thing. It had already been decided. I stood frozen in my kitchen, staring at the letter, my mind racing. Tomorrow, tomorrow what? The walls felt like they were closing in on me, the air too thick to breathe. I turned the letter over, hoping for more, but the back was blank, just aged yellow paper, as fragile as my sanity in that moment. I needed to leave, get out of my apartment, get away from whatever this was, but as I turned toward the door, something stopped me. A sound. Not loud, barely more than a whisper, but unmistakable. Paper crinkling. I whipped around, my heart hammering my pulse, a deafening roar in my ears. The letter on the counter had moved slightly, like it had been brushed by an unseen hand. No, I wasn't waiting to see what happened next. I grabbed my keys and phone, bolted for the door, and didn't stop running until I was several blocks away, standing breathless beneath a flickering streetlight. I checked my phone again, half expecting another message, another warning, but there was nothing, just silence. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into the nearest hotel, locked the door, and sat awake, watching the clock hands creep toward midnight, waiting for tomorrow. Morning came, but nothing happened. No strange messages, no shadowy figures watching me, just an ordinary day like every other before it. For a brief moment, I thought maybe it had been a mistake, a prank, my own paranoia getting the best of me. Then I turned on the news. The anchor was reporting on a car accident just a few blocks from my apartment, a collision that had happened right in front of my building at the exact time I would have been walking home last night if I hadn't left. The image on the screen showed the wreckage, twisted metal glass shattered across the pavement. It was a miracle, the reporter said, that anyone had survived. Except no one had. I shut off the TV, my hands shaking. I knew then that the letter had been right. Tomorrow had come, and I wasn't supposed to be here to see it. I don't know who sent it, I don't know how they knew, but I do know one thing. I should have never found that letter, and I will never go back to the dark web again.
The last message. I should have never opened that message. It was 2:13 a.m. when my phone buzzed. Half asleep, I squinted at the screen. It was from my best friend, Ethan. Bro, I found something insane on the deep web. This is not a joke. Do not go looking for it. I mean it. My heart skipped a beat. Ethan wasn't the type to mess around. He was a tech nerd, always diving into weird parts of the internet. But this was different. A second message popped up. I'm serious. If you see a link called the Red Room 72, don't click it. No matter what. Then just before I could reply, He sent one last text. I think they're watching me. And then, nothing. Silence. I called him immediately. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I didn't know it at the time, but that was the last message I would ever get from Ethan. And it was only the beginning. A link to nowhere. The next morning, I went straight to Ethan's place. His car was still parked outside. The lights in his apartment were off. But when I knocked on the door, nothing. I called him again. Still voicemail. Something was wrong. Ethan wasn't the kind of guy to just disappear. And that message. I think they're watching me. It played in my head over and over. That's when I made my first mistake. I opened my laptop. Ethan and I had shared a bunch of links over the years. Random forums, conspiracy sites, weird deep web pages. If he had found something dangerous, it had to be in our chat history. I scrolled up. And then I saw it. A message from 2 nights ago. A simple link. Redroom72.onion. I hesitated. I wasn't stupid. I knew the deep web was a place you didn't just wander into blindly. But something about Ethan's last text, the fear in his words, I had to know. So, I copied the link. Open Tor. And clicked. The live stream. The page loaded instantly. A pitch-black screen. Nothing else. For a second, I thought the site was broken. But then, text appeared. Red. Glowing. Welcome to Red Room 72. I swallowed hard. My stomach twisted. A video feed flickered on. The quality was grainy, like an old security camera. At first, it just showed a dark, empty room. Concrete walls. A single metal chair in the center. Then, something moved. A figure stepped into the frame. I stopped breathing. Because the person on the screen was Ethan. The game begins. Ethan was blindfolded, tied to the chair. His head hung forward, like he was unconscious. I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was pounding. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But I had seen him. I knew it was him. My phone buzzed. A new message. From an unknown number. You shouldn't have clicked the link. They know. My hands were shaking. I stared at the message. The screen felt like it was burning into my eyes. You shouldn't have clicked the link. I swallowed hard. My instinct screamed at me to turn my phone off, to close my laptop, to pretend none of this had ever happened. But I couldn't. Not when Ethan was still out there. With a deep breath, I opened my laptop again. The Red Room 72 site was still there. Still live. Ethan was moving now. His head lifted slightly. He looked groggy, like he had just woken up. His mouth was gagged. His arms and legs were tied to the chair. Then, new text appeared on the screen. Rules of the game. 1. The player has 60 minutes. 2. The audience decides what happens next. 3. The player may only leave if they win. My blood ran cold. Audience? Then I saw it. A chat box on the right side of the screen. Hundreds of people were watching. And they were voting. Break a finger, 78%. Cut his cheek, 14%. Let him go, 8%. I felt sick. The timer at the top of the screen read 59:43. The countdown had begun. The whisper. I had to do something. I scrambled to type in the chat. Stop. Let him go. Call the police. Nothing happened. The chat kept moving. More votes. More people laughing. Something changed. Ethan moved again. He wasn't just shifting, he was struggling. His head turned slightly. And then, beneath his blindfold, his lips moved. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then, he did it again. He was whispering something. I turned up my volume. Static. The sound was distorted, almost like it had been altered. But I could make out one word. One word that made my stomach drop. Run. The second message. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. You have been chosen. My breath caught in my throat. Check your front door. I froze. No. No, this was a joke. A sick joke. Slowly, I stood up. Every nerve in my body was screaming, don't do it. but I couldn't stop myself. I walked to the door, put my hand on the knob. I wasn't ready for what I saw. A small package sat on my welcome mat. No name, no address, just a symbol, a red number 72 drawn in ink. I slammed the door shut. I wasn't safe. And Ethan wasn't the only one they were watching. The final vote. Back at my laptop, the countdown was at 32:19. Ethan was shaking now. The chat was flooded with comments. Do it. Do it. Do it. Time to vote. A new poll popped up. Bring in the second player? Yes, 92%. No, 8%. My stomach twisted. Second player? My phone buzzed again. One final message. Welcome to the game. And then, my screen went black. The second player. Darkness. My laptop screen had gone completely black. Then, static. A faint crackling sound, like an old radio tuning in. My heart pounded in my chest as a new video feed flickered to life. But it wasn't Ethan anymore. It was me. A grainy black and white video of my own apartment. The camera angle was from above, like a security feed. It showed my desk, my chair, me staring at the screen. I shot up from my seat, my breath coming in sharp gasps. This was impossible. I spun around, looked at the walls, the ceiling. My apartment was small. There was no way someone could have planted a camera without me noticing. But there I was, on the screen. And then, the chat exploded. He sees it. Ha ha ha. He's panicking. This is great. Let's vote. Another poll appeared. Should we bring him in? Yes, 96%. No, 4%. The countdown timer flashed red. 1952. A loud knock echoed through my apartment. I wasn't alone anymore. The second player. Darkness. My laptop screen had gone completely black. Then, static. A faint crackling sound, like an old radio tuning in. My heart pounded in my chest as a new video feed flickered to life. But it wasn't Ethan anymore. It was me. A grainy black and white video of my own apartment. The camera angle was from above, like a security feed. It showed my desk, my chair, me staring at the screen. I shot up from my seat, my breath coming in sharp gasps. This was impossible. I spun around, looked at the walls, the ceiling. My apartment was small. There was no way someone could have planted a camera without me noticing. But there I was, on the screen. And then, the chat exploded. He sees it. Ha ha ha. He's panicking. This is great. Let's vote. Another poll appeared. Should we bring him in? Yes, 96%. No, 4%. The countdown timer flashed red. 1952. A loud knock echoed through my apartment. I wasn't alone anymore. Nowhere to run. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. This wasn't just some sick game. Someone was here. Another knock. Louder this time. I grabbed my phone. Dialed Ethan's number one more time. Straight to voicemail. I tried 911. The call wouldn't go through. No dial tone. Just dead silence. Another knock. Then, the doorknob turned. I ran. Straight to the window, throwing it open. I lived on the second floor, but I didn't care. I'd rather break my leg than find out what was behind that door. Just as I swung my leg over the ledge, a voice. Right behind me. Going somewhere? The masked man. I didn't look back. I jumped. The impact sent a jolt of pain through my ankle, but I pushed myself up, forcing my legs to move. I sprinted down the alley, my heart slamming against my ribs. Behind me, heavy footsteps followed. They weren't running. They didn't need to. Whoever was chasing me knew I had nowhere to go. I turned a corner and nearly slammed into someone. A tall figure, dressed in black. A mask covering their face. The same red 72 was painted across it. I stumbled back, but they didn't move. They just tilted their head slightly, like they were studying me. Then, they lifted a phone to their ear. And my phone rang, the only way out. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But the masked figure did. They spoke in a voice that was calm, almost friendly. "It's time to play, player 2. Then, they held up something in their other hand. A blindfold. The same kind Ethan had been wearing. I took a step back, my pulse hammering in my ears. "No," I whispered. "I'm not playing." The masked figure sighed. "You already are." And then, blackness. Waking up in the game. When I opened my eyes, I was somewhere else. Concrete walls. A single metal chair. A camera in the corner of the room. The same exact room from the live stream. My wrists were tied. My ankles, too. The only sound was the low mechanical hum of a speaker in the ceiling. Then, a voice crackled through it. "Welcome to Red Room 72. The countdown timer blinked in front of me. 59:59. The chat appeared on a screen beside me. Hundreds of people watching. Laughing. Typing. Voting. And then, I saw Ethan. Not in the chair. Not tied up. He was standing outside the room, watching me through a small window in the door. His face was blank. Expressionless. Then, the speaker crackled again. "Player 1 has returned." Ethan's eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time, he smiled. The truth about the game. I struggled against the ropes, my breath coming in ragged gasps. "Ethan, help me." He didn't move. Didn't blink. And then he spoke. "You weren't supposed to click the link." The words sent a chill down my spine. What the hell is going on? Who are they? Ethan's smile never wavered. "They let me go. And now, you have to take my place." My blood turned to ice. No, that's not how this works." Ethan's expression darkened. "That's exactly how it works." I shook my head violently. "I don't accept this. I won't play." Ethan tilted his head. "That's what I said too. And yet, here we are." The chat was going wild now. Break his hand, 67%. Slice his arm, 22%. Let him go, 11%. I couldn't breathe. The speaker crackled again. "The audience has spoken." The door opened. Footsteps. Someone was coming in. And I realized, for the first time, I wasn't getting out of this. Not unless I found a way to beat the game. The masked man. I didn't look back. I jumped. The impact sent a jolt of pain through my ankle, but I pushed myself up, forcing my legs to move. I sprinted down the alley, my heart slamming against my ribs. Behind me, heavy footsteps followed. They weren't running. They didn't need to. Whoever was chasing me knew I had nowhere to go. I turned a corner and nearly slammed into someone. A tall figure, dressed in black. A mask covering their face. The same red 72 was painted across it. I stumbled back, but they didn't move. They just tilted their head slightly, like they were studying me. Then, they lifted a phone to their ear. And my phone rang, the only way out. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But the masked figure did. They spoke in a voice that was calm, almost friendly. "It's time to play, player 2. Then, they held up something in their other hand. A blindfold. The same kind Ethan had been wearing. I took a step back, my pulse hammering in my ears. "No," I whispered. "I'm not playing." The masked figure sighed. "You already are." And then, blackness. Waking up in the game. When I opened my eyes, I was somewhere else. Concrete walls. A single metal chair. A camera in the corner of the room. The same exact room from the live stream. My wrists were tied. My ankles, too. The only sound was the low mechanical hum of a speaker in the ceiling. Then, a voice crackled through it. "Welcome to Red Room 72. The countdown timer blinked in front of me. 59:59. The chat appeared on a screen beside me. Hundreds of people watching. Laughing. Typing. Voting. And then, I saw Ethan. Not in the chair. Not tied up. He was standing outside the room, watching me through a small window in the door. His face was blank. Expressionless. Then, the speaker crackled again. "Player 1 has returned." Ethan's eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time, he smiled. The truth about the game. I struggled against the ropes, my breath coming in ragged gasps. "Ethan, help me." He didn't move, didn't blink. And then he spoke. "You weren't supposed to click the link." The words sent a chill down my spine. What the hell is going on? Who are they? Ethan's smile never wavered. "They let me go. And now, you have to take my place." My blood turned to ice. No, that's not how this works. Ethan's expression darkened. "That's exactly how it works." I shook my head violently. "I don't accept this. I won't play." Ethan tilted his head. "That's what I said too. And yet, here we are." The chat was going wild now. Break his hand, 67%. Slice his arm, 22%. Let him go, 11%. I couldn't breathe. The speaker crackled again. "The audience has spoken." The door opened. Footsteps. Someone was coming in. And I realized, for the first time, I wasn't getting out of this. Not unless I found a way to beat the game. The final choice. The footsteps grew closer. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. Then, Ethan stepped forward. He bent down, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. "There's only one way out." My mind raced. Was he telling me to play along? To fight back? The masked figure approached, carrying something in their hand. A knife. I had seconds to decide. Play the game, or break the rules. I clenched my fists. And I made my choice. The aftermath. I don't remember everything that happened next. Just flashes. Pain. Darkness. A door opening. Running. I woke up in my apartment. No blindfold. No ropes. Just me, lying on the floor, my laptop still open. The Red Room 72 site was gone. No trace of it anywhere. Ethan's number, disconnected. The messages, deleted. Like none of it had ever happened. But I knew the truth. Because later that night, I got one last text. "Congratulations. You won. Next game begins soon." Some games you don't want to win. Some doors should stay closed. And some links should never be clicked. What do you think? Was it real? Or just another dark web myth? Let me know in the comments. And whatever you do, stay off Red Room 72. Like and subscribe for more true horror stories.
I've always been fascinated by the dark web, not for anything illegal, just the mystery of it all. The hidden forums, the strange communities, the rumors of things that shouldn't exist. Most of it is just urban legends, clickbait horror stories meant to scare people away. But some things feel real. It started with a late-night dive into a private forum I hadn't seen before. The thread was simple. Buy a secret. Change your life. It had no comments, no upvotes, just a single post by a user with a random string of numbers as a name. The message was vague. I sell knowledge. No refunds. Choose wisely. Below that was a list of secrets, each with a price in Bitcoin. Some were ridiculous. The truth about Area 51, or how to summon a demon. Others felt unsettlingly specific. What your government is hiding under Denver Airport, or the real reason the Bermuda Triangle exists. One caught my eye. A secret meant to be forgotten, but once you know it, they'll know you too. I hesitated. The price was higher than the others, almost double. But my curiosity got the better of me. I had some spare Bitcoin sitting in a wallet, so I transferred the payment. A few minutes passed. Then a reply. "It's done. Check your inbox. And be careful. Knowing is dangerous." My stomach tightened as I clicked the attachment. It was a single text file. I opened it. At first, it didn't make sense. It was a string of numbers and letters, followed by a set of coordinates. Then a single sentence. "There are places in this world that don't belong to us. This is one of them." I copied the coordinates into Google Maps. They pointed to a remote area in the middle of a desert. No roads, no landmarks, just emptiness. A bad feeling settled in my chest. I should have left it alone. I should have closed my laptop and gone to bed. But I didn't. I dug deeper. I cross-referenced the coordinates with old military records, satellite images, anything I could find. There were no official records of anything existing there. But older maps, ones from decades ago, showed something. A facility. A base that had since been erased from history. I spent the next few days obsessing over it. I didn't sleep much. The more I searched, the less I found. Every time I got close, pages would suddenly be unavailable, sites would go down, information would disappear. Then the email started. At first, they were blank, just empty messages from anonymous senders. Then, they started containing strange strings of code, like someone was trying to communicate but couldn't do it directly. And then one night, I got a message that made my blood run cold. Stop searching. This is your only warning. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. This had to be a joke, right? Some elaborate prank from the seller? Then my phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown number. Look outside. My breath hitched. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. There was no way, but I couldn't stop myself. Slowly, I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. A black car sat parked across the street. The engine was running, but the windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. I backed away, heart pounding. My laptop screen flickered. A new message appeared in the same forum where I bought the secret. I told you. They know you now. I slammed my laptop shut. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like it was moving. I convinced myself it was paranoia, that I was letting my imagination get the best of me, until I woke up to a notification on my phone. A single image. It was a photo of me, taken from outside my window. I packed a bag and left the city that morning. I didn't have a plan, just a destination far away from everything I knew. I paid in cash for a bus ticket to a city I'd never been to, somewhere I could disappear for a while. On the ride there, I kept checking over my shoulder, scanning every car that passed. My phone stayed off, my laptop shoved deep in my bag, but the paranoia didn't leave me. I arrived in a small town just before midnight. It was quiet, barely a soul on the streets. I found a cheap motel, paid with cash, and locked myself in the room. I shut the blinds, wedged a chair under the doorknob, and sat awake with my back against the wall. At some point, exhaustion won. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was still off. I felt the blood drain from my face as I reached for it. Somehow, it had powered on by itself. A single notification was on the screen. A new message. Running won't help. My stomach clenched. I checked the sender. No number. No contact name. Just a message that shouldn't exist. Then the TV turned on by itself. The static filled the room, crackling like white noise. I reached for the remote, but before I could turn it off, the screen changed. A live feed of my motel room. I was in the frame, staring at the TV in real time. The camera was inside the room. I bolted to the door, ripped the chair away, and ran. I didn't stop running until I was halfway across town, gasping for air under the sickly yellow glow of a street lamp. I knew then, this wasn't some hacker messing with me. This was real. I had bought something I was never supposed to know. And now, I was being hunted. I needed help. I logged into a burner email from a public library and messaged the seller, the same one who had sold me the secret. Who are they? What did I buy? I expected silence, but an answer came almost immediately. They don't have a name. They erase what shouldn't exist. And now, you are one of those things. My hands trembled. I typed again. How do I stop this? There was a long pause. Then a final reply. You can't. You made a choice. Now they will make theirs. The email account was deleted before I could reply. I sat there, staring at the screen, knowing I had made a mistake that could never be undone. When I left the library, I felt it again. The sensation of being watched. I turned the corner and froze. A man in a black suit stood at the end of the street. He wasn't moving, wasn't reacting, just watching. I ducked into an alley, heart racing. I needed to think. I needed to disappear again. But deep down, I knew the truth. It was too late. They had already found me. I took the longest route back to the motel, constantly looking over my shoulder, trying to convince myself that I wasn't being followed. But the feeling never left me. The room was exactly as I had left it. The door was still locked, the chair still there. But something felt wrong. I checked the TV. It was off. The phone still in my pocket. I turned it on again, no messages. For a brief second, I let myself breathe. Maybe I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe it was just paranoia, my mind playing tricks on me after diving too deep into the dark web. Then I saw it. A slip of paper, peeking out from under the door. My body went cold. Slowly, I reached down and picked it up. The paper was blank at first, just a folded square of thick cardstock. But as I turned it over, something shifted, like ink bleeding to the surface. One word appeared. Run. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag and bolted out the back exit. The motel parking lot was empty, but I could feel them, whoever they were watching. The town was silent, the streets barely lit by flickering lamps. I had no car, no real plan. I just ran, down alleyways, through empty roads. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station on the edge of town. The clerk barely looked at me as I grabbed a cheap burner phone and a new set of clothes. I paid in cash, shoved everything into my bag, and stepped into the bathroom to change. When I came out, my old clothes stuffed into the trash bin, my heart nearly stopped. The gas station TV was playing the news, and my face was on the screen. No name, no details, just grainy, security camera footage of me at the motel. The caption underneath read, "Person of interest. If you see him, do not engage. Call authorities immediately." My blood ran ice cold. I backed away, turning toward the door, and froze. A black car had just pulled into the lot. The driver's door opened. I turned and ran. The next few hours were a blur. I ran through the town, cutting through side streets, staying away from open areas. I needed to get out, needed to find a way to disappear completely. The bus station was too risky. The train station had cameras. Every possible escape route was closing in on me. I ended up in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, crouched in the shadows, trying to figure out my next move. That's when my burner phone buzzed. A new message. No number. Just 3 words. "You can't hide." I dropped the phone like it was burning my skin. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. I pressed myself against the cold concrete wall, barely breathing. A shadow passed by the broken windows. Whoever they were, they had found me. I had one last chance. I gripped my bag tighter, ready to run. But before I could move, the lights flickered. Then, the warehouse door creaked open, and a voice whispered from the darkness. "It's over." The words sent a cold shiver down my spine. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to stay hidden in the shadows. My breath was shallow, barely there. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. The footsteps grew closer, slow and deliberate, like whoever was out there wanted me to feel trapped. I reached into my bag, fumbling for anything I could use as a weapon. My fingers brushed against the burner phone, but I knew it was useless. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring, that makes the world feel empty. I strained to listen, but there was nothing. Then suddenly, a voice. "You should have just taken the money." My blood ran cold. The words weren't spoken. They came from my phone. The burner phone. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. A new message appeared. "It's too late now." My pulse thundered in my ears. I bolted. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I sprinted toward the back exit, shoving open the rusted metal door and spilling into the night. The streets were dark, empty, stretching in every direction. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to get away. Then, headlights. A black car turned the corner, moving slow, hunting. I ducked into an alley, heart hammering, my lungs burning. Another message lit up my screen. Nowhere to run. I clenched my jaw, fighting back the panic, the sickening realization that they were always a step ahead. They knew where I was. They were toying with me. And then, I heard the car stop. A door opened. Footsteps. Coming closer. I turned, heart pounding, searching for a way out. The alley was a dead end. My only chance was to climb the fire escape, but before I could move, another message. Game over. I barely had time to react before a sharp pain exploded at the back of my head. The world tilted. Then darkness. When I woke up, I wasn't in the alley anymore. I was somewhere else. A cold, sterile room. Dim fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The walls were white, too white, like a hospital or an interrogation room. I tried to move. My wrists were strapped to the chair. My legs, too. Panic clawed at my chest. A door creaked open. A man in a suit stepped inside. Calm, composed, as if this was just another day at the office. He pulled up a chair across from me, resting a folder on the table between us. Then he spoke. "You were warned." I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. He slid the folder toward me. I hesitated, then slowly opened it. Inside were photographs. Of me. Not just from today. Not just from the past week. Photos from years ago. From places I barely remembered being. They had been watching me long, before I ever went looking for them. The man leaned forward, steepling his fingers. You don't exist anymore. My throat tightened. Your name, your past, your life, it's gone. We own you now. I shook my head. I just wanted to disappear. A small, knowing smile crossed his lips. You did. I felt my stomach drop. He stood up, adjusting his suit. Welcome to your new life. The door opened again. 2 men in black stepped inside. They unstrapped my wrists, but I was too numb to resist. As they led me down the hallway, past rows of identical white doors, the realization hit me like a freight train. I wasn't escaping. I wasn't running. I had traded one identity for another. And now, I was never getting out. Was this story real, or just another dark web mystery? Let me know in the comments. If you love creepy stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more terrifying tales. But remember, some secrets should never be bought. They say the dead don't talk, that when someone is gone, they're gone forever. But what if that's not true? Last night, I found a website that claims to let you speak to the dead. At first, I thought it was a joke, some creepy internet gimmick. But then I typed my first message, and someone answered. And now, I think I've made a mistake I can't undo. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you love terrifying stories. This one is going to stay with you long after it's over. I've never been one to believe in ghosts. Horror movies don't scare me. Urban legends? Just stories. But last night, something happened that I can't explain. It started when I was browsing a horror forum, looking for weird internet mysteries. That's when I found the post. The last conversation, speak to the dead. No comments. No upvotes. Just a link. And underneath, a single warning. They can hear you, but don't ask the wrong questions. I should have scrolled past it. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. I clicked. The website was simple, just a black screen with a single text box and one sentence. Enter the name of the person you wish to speak to. I stared at it, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was obviously fake. A chatbot or some AI trick, right? Still, my heart pounded as I typed a name. My mother's name. She passed away when I was 12. I hit enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cursor blinked. The text box cleared, and a message appeared. Hello. I felt my stomach drop. It had to be a script, a bot programmed to respond generically. But I couldn't stop myself from replying. Who is this? The response was instant. It's me. Don't you recognize me? I felt cold all over. This wasn't funny. Prove it. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, a new message appeared. You used to hide under the kitchen table when it thundered. I always told you it was just the sky talking. My breath caught in my throat. Nobody else knew that. It was something she used to say when I was a kid, something I hadn't thought about in years. I should have closed the page. I should have stopped. But I didn't. I kept typing. Where are you? This time, the response was slower. It's dark. I can't see much. But I know I'm not alone. A chill ran through me. Not alone. The text box glitched. The message rewrote itself. Something is here with me. I shivered. The room suddenly felt colder. My laptop screen flickered. I hesitated before typing again. Are you okay? The reply came immediately. No. It knows I'm talking to you. At that moment, my bedroom light flickered. It was probably a coincidence. It had to be, right? If you're still watching, hit that like button, because trust me, it only gets worse from here. I tried to steady my breathing. What knows? The response took longer this time. It was as if someone or something was watching, deciding what to say next. Then the words appeared. It's looking at you right now. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head toward my bedroom door. It was open. I was sure I had closed it before I started typing. I felt sick. My fingers trembled over the keyboard. I have to go, I typed. The page glitched. The text box flickered. Don't leave me. The lights in my room went out. My screen was the only source of light now, casting a dull glow across my desk. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. No number. No name. Just 2 words. Look outside. I didn't want to, but I did. I pulled back the curtain just enough to see the street below. There, standing beneath the flickering streetlight, was a woman, motionless, face tilted upward, staring directly at my window. I couldn't make out her features, but something about the way she stood. It wasn't human. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text. That's not me. I dropped my phone. My pulse pounded in my ears. I turned back to my laptop. The web page had changed. The text box was gone. Instead, there was a single sentence on the screen. "It's in the house." My breathing stopped. Then, behind me, a floorboard creaked. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Instead, I slammed my laptop shut, grabbed my phone, and ran. I don't remember getting into my car. I don't remember driving. All I know is that I didn't stop until I was halfway across town, sitting in an empty parking lot, heart pounding, hands shaking. I stayed there until the sun came up. When I finally got the courage to go back home, my bedroom light was back on. My laptop sat closed on my desk. Everything looked normal. But when I turned on my screen, the website was gone. The URL didn't exist. The page was completely wiped from my history, like it had never been there at all. And yet, my phone still had one unread message. "We'll talk again soon." I threw the phone across the room. I don't know what I contacted that night. I don't know if it was really my mother, or if something was just pretending to be her. But I do know one thing. Some doors should never be opened. If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe, because this was just one story. There are plenty more waiting to be told. But be careful, because some stories might just start talking back. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that I blocked the number, burned my laptop, and went on with my life. But some things don't let go that easily. For a few days, nothing happened. No messages, no glitches, just the eerie silence of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept telling myself it had to be a prank. Someone hacked my phone, tricked me into believing something impossible. But the feeling lingered, that gnawing paranoia in the back of my mind. Then, the dream started. I would wake up in my childhood home, standing in the kitchen. The storm outside would shake the windows, the way it always did when I was a kid. And I would hear it, a voice. Not from the walls, not from my phone, from under the table. I never looked. I never answered. I would just wake up, drenched in sweat, my heart hammering in my chest. The first few nights, I brushed it off. Just a nightmare, fueled by stress and an overactive imagination. Then the bruises appeared. Faint, like someone had grabbed my wrist in my sleep. Like fingers had pressed too hard into my skin. One morning, I woke up with my phone in my hand. The screen was on, a text thread open. A message sent at 3:12 a.m. "Are you still there?" I didn't remember typing it. I didn't remember waking up. But there it was, sent to the same unknown number. And underneath it, yes. Slowly, I turned my head toward my bedroom door. It was open. I was sure I had closed it before I started typing. I felt sick. My fingers trembled over the keyboard. "I have to go," I typed. The page glitched. The text box flickered. "Don't leave me." The lights in my room went out. My screen was the only source of light now, casting a dull glow across my desk. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. No number. No name. Just 2 words. "Look outside." I didn't want to, but I did. I pulled back the curtain just enough to see the street below. There, standing beneath the flickering streetlight, was a woman, motionless, face tilted upward, staring directly at my window. I couldn't make out her features, but something about the way she stood. It wasn't human. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text. "That's not me." I dropped my phone. My pulse pounded in my ears. I turned back to my laptop. The web page had changed. The text box was gone. Instead, there was a single sentence on the screen. "It's in the house." My breathing stopped. Then, behind me, a floorboard creaked. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Instead, I slammed my laptop shut, grabbed my phone, and ran. I don't remember getting into my car. I don't remember driving. All I know is that I didn't stop until I was halfway across town, sitting in an empty parking lot, heart pounding, hands shaking. I stayed there until the sun came up. When I finally got the courage to go back home, my bedroom light was back on. My laptop sat closed on my desk. Everything looked normal. But when I turned on my screen, the website was gone. The URL didn't exist. The page was completely wiped from my history, like it had never been there at all. And yet, my phone still had one unread message. "We'll talk again soon." I threw the phone across the room. I don't know what I contacted that night. I don't know if it was really my mother, or if something was just pretending to be her. But I do know one thing. Some doors should never be opened. If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe, because this was just one story. There are plenty more waiting to be told. But be careful, because some stories might just start talking back. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that I blocked the number, burned my laptop, and went on with my life. But some things don't let go that easily. For a few days, nothing happened. No messages, no glitches, just the eerie silence of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept telling myself it had to be a prank. Someone hacked my phone, tricked me into believing something impossible. But the feeling lingered, that gnawing paranoia in the back of my mind. Then the dream started. I would wake up in my childhood home, standing in the kitchen. The storm outside would shake the windows, the way it always did when I was a kid. And I would hear it, a voice, not from the walls, not from my phone, from under the table. I never looked. I never answered. I would just wake up, drenched in sweat, my heart hammering in my chest. The first few nights, I brushed it off. Just a nightmare, fueled by stress and an overactive imagination. Then the bruises appeared. Faint, like someone had grabbed my wrist in my sleep. Like fingers had pressed too hard into my skin. One morning, I woke up with my phone in my hand. The screen was on, a text thread open. A message sent at 3:12 a.m. Are you still there? I didn't remember typing it. I didn't remember waking up. But there it was, sent to the same unknown number. And underneath it, yes. I threw my phone across the room. I should have changed my number. I should have wiped my hard drive, thrown out everything, and moved somewhere far, far away. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Because I never told them my number. They were never supposed to know where I lived. They were never supposed to follow me into my dreams. I stopped sleeping after that. Every night, I would sit up in bed waiting, listening. And then last night, something new happened. At 3:33 a.m., my doorbell rang. Not my phone, not a text, my actual front door. The sound echoed through the apartment, slow and deliberate. One ring, two rings. I stared at the door, frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to check, but I had to. I forced myself to stand up, creeping toward the peephole. My fingers trembled as I reached out, dreading what I might see. The hallway was empty. No one was there. I stood there, barely breathing, waiting for something, anything to happen. And then, from the other side of the door, a whisper. So soft, I almost didn't hear it. I found you. I stumbled back, slamming the lock shut. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely breathe. My phone buzzed. I didn't want to check. I really didn't. But my hands moved on their own. One new message. You left the door unlocked again. I turned my head slowly, toward my bedroom door. It was wide open. If you're still watching, hit that like button, because this is only the beginning. And if you think I should keep investigating, let me know in the comments. Because I don't think this is over. Not yet. I slammed my bedroom door shut, locking it with trembling hands. My breath was ragged, my pulse hammering so loud I thought it might drown out the silence pressing in from the hallway. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Let me in. No, this wasn't happening. This had to be a nightmare, some glitch, some elaborate joke my mind was playing on me. I turned my phone off. Then I unplugged my Wi-Fi router. I wasn't going to play their game anymore. But the moment I turned around, something changed. The air in my room felt heavier, like the pressure had shifted. The shadows seemed darker, stretching unnaturally along the walls. Then a sound. Not from my phone. Not from the hallway. From inside the room. A breath. Right behind me. I spun around, heart in my throat, my back pressing against the door. But the room was empty. Or at least it looked empty. I reached for the lamp beside my bed, turning it up as bright as it could go. The light flickered for a moment, just a second, but in that moment I saw it. A shape. A figure standing in the corner of my room, facing the wall. No. No. My chest tightened, every muscle in my body screaming to run, but I was frozen. The figure didn't move. It was tall, its limbs too long, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. The air around it shimmered like static, flickering in and out of existence, like it wasn't supposed to be here. Like it had forced its way into my reality. I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Then the whisper came again. Why did you stop talking? The voice was wrong. It was layered, distorted, like multiple voices speaking at once. Some high-pitched, some deep, all of them overlapping in a way that made my skin crawl. I reached for my phone. I didn't care if it was a trap. I didn't care if I was playing into whatever nightmare had latched onto me. I had to end this. I turned the screen on. The messages were still there, but something was different now. The name at the top of the chat. Before, it had been an unknown number. A blank ID. Now it was my brother's name. My stomach twisted. I started typing, my fingers moving on instinct. Who are you? 3 dots appeared. They were typing back. I swallowed hard, every nerve in my body screaming to throw the phone away, to run, to do something. Then the response appeared. I told you. It's me. My phone glitched. The screen flickered, distorting into static before resetting. A new message popped up immediately. Turn around. I couldn't. I wouldn't. My fingers clenched the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. My breath was coming in shallow gasps, my body trembling from the effort of staying perfectly still. I wanted to believe if I didn't move, if I didn't acknowledge it, it would go away. But then I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck. I couldn't stop myself. I turned, and the figure was inches from my face. Its eyes weren't eyes. They were empty sockets, deep and hollow, filled with something shifting. Something moving just beneath the surface, like static trapped inside a skull. It smiled. I didn't remember screaming. I didn't remember running. All I remember is waking up the next morning, curled up in the corner of my room, my phone dead beside me. The messages were gone. The website was gone. The figure was gone. But the whisper remained. Soft. Lingering. Right behind me. I'm not going anywhere. If you're still watching, like this video. Because if I don't make it back with another story, you'll know WH. I didn't sleep the next night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. That thing. Those hollow, shifting sockets where its eyes should have been. That twisted, unnatural smile. The whisper. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head. That sleep deprivation, paranoia, and a bad internet rabbit hole had gotten the best of me. But deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't over. By morning, I felt like a ghost of myself, drained, empty, running on pure adrenaline. But I needed answers. So against every ounce of self-preservation left in me, I did something incredibly stupid. I turned my laptop back on. I knew the website was gone, but I wanted to check anyway. Maybe I could find it in my history, trace back the link, see if anyone else had talked about it. But when my browser opened, I felt my blood turn to ice. The website was already up, waiting for me. The text box blinked. Welcome back. No, I never reopened it. I never clicked anything. I hovered my fingers over the keyboard, hesitating. I wanted to close it, to shut everything down and pretend this never happened. But then the text changed. You saw me. I felt sick. The cursor blinked, waiting for a response. My hands trembled over the keyboard. I typed, barely able to breathe. What do you want? The reply was instant. To finish our conversation. No, I was done. I reached for the power button, ready to shut it all down. The screen flickered. A video file popped up. My breath caught in my throat. The thumbnail was dark, barely visible, but I could make out a shape. Something hunched, something standing in the shadows of a room that looked eerily familiar. I clicked play. At first, there was only static. Then the image came into focus. It was my bedroom, from the night before. The footage was grainy, flickering, like it had been recorded on some old, broken security camera. The timestamp in the corner read 3:12 a.m. I saw myself, lying in bed, eyes shut tight, curled up against the wall. But I wasn't alone. In the corner of the room, just barely visible in the dim light, it was there, standing perfectly still, watching me. The thing didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just waited. Then, after what felt like hours, it took a single step forward, then another, and another. It moved slowly, deliberately, until it was right beside me. I was still asleep. I had no idea it was there. The thing leaned down. Its face hovered inches from mine. Then, the screen glitched. For a split second, a single frame flashed on the screen. A close-up. A face. Not its face. Mine. My own reflection, staring blankly into the camera, eyes dark, mouth stretched into that same unnatural grin. Then, the video ended. The screen went black. I slammed the laptop shut, so hard I thought I might break it. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't a website. This thing, whatever it was inside my house. It had been standing over me, watching me, and I had never known. I felt the urge to run, to get out, to leave, to never come back. But then, the last message appeared. One final line of text, typed out slowly, like it wanted me to read every word carefully. "We're already here." I ran. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember unlocking the door. I just remember the cold night air hitting my face as I sprinted into the street, not caring where I was going. I just had to get away. I didn't go back that night, or the night after. I've been staying in a motel across town, but it doesn't matter. It still found me. Last night, I woke up to my phone buzzing. I hesitated before checking it. One new message. No number. No sender. Just a picture. A photo of me, asleep in my motel bed, and standing in the doorway, barely visible in the darkness. I don't know what to do anymore. If you're watching this, like this video, maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. But if I disappear, you'll know why. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the corner of the motel room, gripping my phone like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. Every shadow, every creak of the old building sent my heart racing. Morning came, but it didn't bring relief. I packed my things, threw some cash at the front desk, and left without a destination. I couldn't go home. I couldn't go anywhere that it might follow. But deep down, I already knew it was too late. This thing wasn't just watching me. It wasn't just playing some sick game. It had already chosen me. I drove for hours, barely stopping, just putting distance between myself and everything familiar. Towns blurred past, highway lights flickered. The radio whispered static no matter what station I turned to. Then, my phone buzzed. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to look. I knew what it was. But my hands moved on their own, my fingers trembling as I swiped to unlock. One new message. No sender. Just 2 words. Come home. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding. My car skidded to a stop on the side of the road, dust kicking up into the air. No, I wasn't going back. But then my headlights flickered, and in the dim glow I saw it, standing in the middle of the empty road, waiting. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. But I knew it was looking at me. My phone buzzed again. I looked down. Another message. You already did. I turned back to the road, but it was gone. The street was empty. No footprints. No sign that anything had been there at all. I stared into the darkness, my pulse hammering in my skull, waiting for something to happen. Then my radio crackled to life. Not music. Not static. A voice. My voice. Why did you stop talking? I threw the car into drive and sped off, my hands white-knuckled around the wheel. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if there's anywhere left to run. But if you're watching this, if you ever see that website, don't click it. Don't type a name. Don't answer when they text. Because once you open that door, you can never close it again.